Shalom, and welcome back to Bnei Noach Academy, Thoughts on the Torah and Life. Please remember to hit the like button, to subscribe, and most importantly, to share this insight and inspiration with friends and family. So this series I'm going to call the Spy Chronicles, because this is going to be several installments of some insight and reflections on what I consider one of the most intriguing episodes in the Torah. In fact, it changed the course of history in many ways, as will be discussed. But the most important principle that needs to be applied here is, as I've said many times, the Torah does not just merely tell us stories. The Torah is not a history book. The Torah, as its name, is a book of instructions. Thus, everything that appears in the Torah, not only every verse, even every word, even every nuance, carries within itself a lesson, or perhaps sometimes many lessons, but certainly major lessons or lesson. So in this story, the story about the spies, the story how they came forth to Moses requesting that they send scouts to see the land before they enter there, so they don't come in blindly. And then, of course, the sad result of that, which basically led to the Jews wandering in the desert for 40 years in total. And all those who came to demand this in the first place, never actually having the merit to enter Israel, the Holy Land, and they all perished over the course of the 40 years in the desert. We need to learn from the story. There is so much to know, there's so much to understand, there's so much to take away. So let's start with the first and obvious question. In the book of Numbers, chapter 14, verse 2, God says to Moses, Shlach lecha anashim, send these people to you, meaning I'm not telling you you have to send them, but I'm certainly giving you permission to send these scouts. I'm allowing you to do so. It's at your discretion. You make the decision. Now, why did God do that? Obviously, God does not look to trip us up. And God knew perhaps more than anyone else could know what the possible fallout can be and what this may lead to. He certainly knew that. Yet, he allowed it. Yet, he gave him the green light. Why? And what does it say to us? What do we learn from this? Well, the answer is that although God is the one who actually calls all the shots, everything that happens in this world obviously happens by his will. If he doesn't want it to happen, it doesn't happen. And if he wants it to happen in a certain way, that's exactly how it's going to happen. However, what God wants from us is at the same time that we have this fundamental inner belief that everything comes from God, but he wants us to operate. He wants us to behave. He wants us to live our lives, to go about our business in a manner that is, quote, natural and realistic in the reality that we human beings live. In other words, he wants us to go about business as usual, as the world makes it usual, so to speak. In other words, availing ourselves of all natural means, all possible means that's available to us as human beings to be able to achieve that which we need to achieve, that which we want to acquire, not just to sit back and rely on God. And since in this case they had a question, since in this case they felt a need to explore the land, to see what they're dealing with, to, quote, operate in a very naturalistic manner, God allowed it because really that's part of God's plan. Sometimes will it lead to undesired results? Yes. Is that good? Absolutely not. But that's part of the plan. See, God put us here in this world to live according to the rules, quote unquote, of this natural universe, to play along the rules of this game as it is here. That's not against or separate of God's will. That is God's will. What's required from us is to be vigilant and to constantly remember that if we just totally and absolutely, meaning exclusively, rely on the natural means, on the humanistic understanding, that we may be led astray. We may end up in an undesired place or situation. And therefore, as much as we're involved in this world as it is, as much as we are here doing what we can do physically, humanly, naturally, to achieve that which we need to achieve, we have to remember in the back of our minds that He, that is the Almighty, is the one who is in charge. That's one of the great lessons of this saga, of this episode. And of course, there are many more to come.